Culture Pot blog, and my name is Bobby Baymont. I am the host, and I'm here with an awesome guest, a very esteemed athlete, has reached the pinnacle, the top of the peak. He's also an author, a sports analyst. He's doing everything right now. We have Ryan Harris. How you doing, man?
What's great, Bobby? Great to be with you, brother.
Let's start with the public speaking, just because I was able to actually get to see you do a piece of your public speaking. So how did you get into that? What really made you want to do public speaking?
Well, thanks first and foremost for having me on, man. It's an honor to be with you. For me, it's about impact. And, when I was playing in the NFL, I got a ton of opportunities to speak to kids. And I remember vividly when I was a young kid in my first year ever playing football at 14, we had like the fifth receiver of the Vikings come and talk to us. But it was so incredible. It was just the first time that a dream seemed tangible. So I wanted to encourage other people, and especially especially with as many places as I've played, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Denver, Houston. I've had a lot of experience in terms of different people, and we're all very much the same, right? We have our habits, we have our routines, we have our favorite food, and it's not too different from place to place. So my big thing about speaking is always about encouraging people, because there's always going to be a voice telling you not to do something or a reason why it's not going to work out, but there are not enough voices telling you it will work out and here's how you do it. So I want to bring that to people as I used it in my life. And it's very applicable whether you're becoming a first-time parent or asking somebody who you think might be the partner of your life to a date. You can do a lot of different things with the right mindset, and really you can do anything with the right mindset. And especially when I'm talking to groups, I want to encourage them to think about their mindset. And I want to challenge them the way that champions challenge themselves. The greatest thing about winning Super Bowl 50 was being a part of that team. And as teammates, we loved each other and challenged each other every day. And too often in businesses that I go and speak to, I see that not happening. So I bring about some fun and funny stories to get people to challenge themselves and the others on their team.
Awesome. I love it, man. That's sick. So touching more on the Super Bowl 50, I wanted to kind of get into that, of course. But what do you carry from being in a Super Bowl? You kind of touched on it, to just kind of being retired, doing your own thing. I know you are still in the sports space. So what kind of drives you and keeps that passion that you I know you had when you were playing football, just making all those accomplishments?
Well, when you win the Super Bowl, everything you believed about yourself comes true for other people. It's quite a moment. You get to say, "I'm the best in the world," and it's the award. And it's what's funny is the moment you become a champion, you're done doing work becoming a champion, right? So I mean, that's where it's. Yeah, I just remember saying, "Man, I'm glad I turned off my TV and got into a great meditation routine. I'm glad that I did yoga. I'm glad that I trained. I'm glad that I asked questions." Because it all matters in the end, and none of it matters in the end, right? Because nobody sees it. And then taking that process and saying, okay, look, I was lucky to have a lengthy NFL career at 10 years when most athletes have 2.5 in the NFL. And I wanted to do something more. I knew I had my doctorate in applied football mechanics and theory from Peyton Manning University. And I wanted to share the mindset messages, but also help humanize and educate people about the game they love. And the best road for that was through broadcasting. And it's not about, hey, this is the game, this is the person. This is, hey, this is what the conversation is in the huddle. This is what a player's thinking about. Oh, they dropped the pass. Okay, now I want to see if that player can catch another one. So I get to bring some different angles from my championship experience, because whether it's the NFL or business, sports, arts, too often one failure leads people to think it's over. There's an interception thrown by us in the Super Bowl. I gave up a sack in the Super Bowl, right? I'm so glad that all of myself and my teammates did not stop working to win because of a mistake. And to bring that humanization to people about a sport, especially in NFL where there's a face mask over you, to say, hey, one particular story I remember, I was in Denver doing sports broadcasting. We had a 4-hour midday show. And Teddy Bridgewater didn't make a tackle. It kind of faked making a tackle. And everybody wanted to rip him. And I said, now, hold on. How many of us are Teddy Bridgewater, right? If we're being honest, how many of us, when we saw an opportunity coming, went away from it? And that's what I love, reminding people that human beings play sports, human beings just like you and I. And it's amazing how in sports people take their life frustrations out on athletes when really this is a game that the athlete's meant to enjoy. And I love bringing that aspect to things. And as a speaker, I can do that as well, whether it's about the company's goals or about where the sales team is or about where the leadership team is. I have messages from my experience that can help people win.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it all ties together, and I definitely hear what you're saying. I actually do remember that Teddy Bridgewater tackle, actually.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember seeing it.
or lack thereof, right?
Exactly.
And can you remember your lack thereof tackle, right? So
Exactly. I
we've
like
all
that.
been there, but we like to point it out when somebody else is doing it.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. That's a good way to put it into perspective. So I know you're still very involved with football. So what about your book? You want to just touch on that? Kind of just what made you want to write a book and what kind of just like is the process of putting together a book like that?
It's always remarkable when you encourage someone, the look on their face. They look at you like, man, no one else has ever believed in me like that. No one else told me to keep going. And for me, I know that I won't be able to speak to everyone. So if I wasn't able to reach someone, I wanted to make sure they had some inspiration. I wanted to write the book that I wish I'd have had when I was a young athlete. You know, it's amazing how nobody has any fear, isn't it? Well, we all have fear, right? It's amazing how no one's, doubting themselves. Well, okay, everybody does. So I wanted to show people how your mindset's the only difference in your success or failures. And the NFL, 1,600 players play every year in the NFL, but only 53 become champions. I mean, that's what we're talking about. How do you go from 1,600 to one of the 53? And it's all about mindset. When we played the Carolina Panthers, we knew going into the game they were not willing to do the little things long enough to win a game. And sure enough, it happened. We were battle tested and prepared to say, yeah, I made a mistake and I'm still going to win. And that's a different animal. That's a different team when you got guys like that, when you have teammates encouraging you instead of, debasing you and ripping you to shreds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not an environment a lot of people get to enjoy. But more importantly, so many of us are on a path by ourselves. And I want to write a book to encourage people just to choose your mindset. And when that happens, there's going to be some other things that happen, right? When I was in college, I trained differently than everybody else, scared the crap out of most everybody I played with. And to the point where one guy came back to train with me. And then afterwards, after he had gotten better, came back, was like, oh, Harris is doing some weird stuff. And, I don't know. It's all fake. Okay, well, I played 10 years in the NFL. He didn't. So in those moments where you think this is your life, whether that's high school, college, after as a professional, people are going to be wrong about you all the time. It's not worth it to give in to those moments because you've already decided you're on a better path. And that decision is the only difference. Everyone in the NFL is talented. Everyone at a company can do work. Who wants to do the best work? And the answer is often it's just a few people. And you can be one of those people if you're in an area that you really are passionate about, that you really have concrete goals for, and that you're willing to work towards.
Definitely. I like that. It's awesome. So we're both some Minnesota kids. We both
Yeah.
came up out of Minnesota. So as a kid, what was kind of like the mindset did when you won that Super Bowl and when you completed that book, when you complete a public speech, what kind of do you ever go back to like those times as a kid and think like, man, like this is what I saw when I was a kid. Like this is exactly where I thought I'd be.
I wish I could say when I was a kid, I saw that, but I really didn't. I didn't see the NFL. I remember seeing the NFL. Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame brought me into his office when I was a junior, and I thought I was in trouble, even though I didn't do anything. I was like, oh man, where am I going? He said, hey Ryan, I know you're thinking about going to the NFL. Here's why I think you should stay. And we went through a conversation. And this whole time, I'm like, what? Like the NFL? And then, he said, here's some tapes that scouts got me. I thought, scouts in the NFL have tape on me? Like I'm in this meeting, listening to him, but in my mind, I'm going, what is happening right now? So for me, I just remember, when I was at Jimmy Lee, shout out to Jimmy Lee in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I remember my first practice, Coach Carter said, hey, Ryan, you keep this up, you could really be something. And then when I got to high school and I got a chance to try out for varsity as a sophomore, all these seniors and juniors were slow getting to the front of the line, man. I'm not doing that. This is what I want. I'm at the front. And they had to try and push me back. I said, no, man, you were late. get here first. And so for me, it was just internally like I wanted to play football. I wanted to see how good I could be at it. I wanted somebody else to tell me that I had to stop playing. And so for me, what I think about a lot are all those times when I was alone, just thinking that it could happen. When I was alone on campus, thinking that, walking back from a study session, going to sleep for 6 hours to wake up to lift and do it all over again, man, this is going to pay off. I'm working so hard now, so I won't have to work later. And I think about that often, especially when I'm back at Notre Dame calling games. And I just wish I could keep telling myself, keep going, which I did do. And I came from a very different structure. I had my parents who supported me and encouraged me. I had great friends who encouraged me, and I was able to do those things. And it's funny for me, you mentioned like after writing a book, after winning the Super Bowl, after a speech, like my feeling is always, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that I wasn't going to rock this stage as a speaker? Did you think I wasn't going to write a great book? Did you think we weren't winning the Super Bowl? Because I didn't spend any time there. Because I know what I can do. I know what I'm willing to do. And that's the biggest difference for me is people are just unwilling to do the work to make sure you're successful. And so for me, it's always fun. I just had it happen recently where people I've known for years got to see me speak for the first time and said, I had no idea you could do that. Well, that's not my problem, is it? Right? Hey, this is what I do. So the confidence that I have in my process is what I celebrate, because whether I'm writing a book, giving a speech, analyzing a play, analyzing a draft pick, it's the same thing. What's my goal? What do I want to talk about? How do I want to get there? What stories can I illustrate? And this is what's going to make me successful. And so for me, it's kind of funny to experience those moments, because the shock for others is always there, but the shock for me is not, and I celebrate that.
Awesome. That's awesome. So since you're a big Denver guy, Minnesota guy, who do you think you watch basketball at all? You watching the finals?
Of course.
You think Minnesota's got the edge right now, or you think Denver's gonna come and take it?
Minnesota had a great game 1. Congratulations. How's it feel? Welcome to the club. The Nuggets know how to finish. And Anthony Edwards, no question, unbelievable talent, fun to watch. And I come from the Timberwolves fans that, were there with Garnett and Sprewell and Cassell, and we lost. And then we weren't even competitive for a while. And then Karl Anthony Towns wasn't enough. So I made a switch a long time ago, about 2009, to become a Nuggets fan. And I always point out the best basketball player in the world, Big Honey, a.k.a. the Serbian sniper, Nikola Jokic, he doesn't touch a basketball for 3 months when he's done playing.
That's true.
So for everybody who wants their 10,000 hours, everybody that wants to dribble the paint off the court, the best player in the world doesn't touch a basketball for 3 months. Do you have that in your schedule? Like if I wanted to play in the NFL, I would take note of that. Mm-hmm. He has the most energy. He plays 48 minutes. You can't beat somebody that's willing to play all game, every game in a series, because he takes 3 months off. So it's so important. Even in the NFL, we had 1 day off a week. You have got to take time for yourself to do what you enjoy. And that's the biggest thing that I want people to take from the Nuggets and Timberwolves series, is that the best basketball player you watch stops playing basketball for a while to entertain himself, to be a better father and a husband. And we need more of that and less of the 130 games at 13. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how many championships Tom Brady won at 13. Why? Because he didn't play football till he was 14. Nobody cares how many championships Peyton Manning won at 13. Why? Because he didn't start playing until 14. Roger Federer didn't play until 14. So to all these parents who never played, who want their kids to have a schedule that is unsustainable, you're doing it wrong. You have to give your kids choice. And I've seen it on the field. I've seen when a kid is there because his parents want him to be there. That's a bad day for that kid. Great parents teach their kids a process for failure, because at some point your kid will fail, and then they have to have the confidence in themselves. They have to have the knowledge of who they are to decide what to do next. And that's your job as a parent. And Nikola Jokic clearly had great parents, because they encouraged him to take 3 months off from the most lucrative activity he can do. And guess what? He gets better. Isn't that amazing? So take some time off.
Definitely, definitely. So like we're talking about kind of like just going in your own path when we talk about Nikola Jokic. Um did you do anything in your athletic career that was kind of just off path, something that you knew you were doing right and that you just kept doing and it paid off for you, even if people were like, no, you need to be playing basketball in the off season, like in his example, but you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, but it just wasn't for you necessarily, and it ended up paying off? Anything like that?
100%. Two specific things I did different than people I played with. I've been doing yoga since I was 14. And people still laugh about, I get questions after speeches sometimes. They say, what are two things that we can do to get our kid to the NFL? I said, number one, teach them how to fail, teach them the process for failure. Number two, do yoga. And people still laugh. I'm literally telling you, do yoga. Aaron Rodgers, yoga. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, yoga. Get you some downward dog. And I mean, when I started yoga, man, I was the only black person in the yoga studio. And it was hot yoga, that hatha hot yoga, I think it's hot. And dripping sweat, smells bad, smelling people farting and stuff. Doesn't matter. It got me better because guess what? You're on one foot 70% of the time in the NFL. So you better practice your balance on one foot. You better be strong enough mentally that when it hurts, to start your process. One of my favorite things I learned in yoga on a particularly hard 90-minute heated yoga class that none of my teammates were in, the yoga instructor said, when the pain begins, your yoga starts.
Wow.
We can do anything when it's easy, but can you do it when it's hard? And do you think that helped me? You bet your ass. And then I also did different martial arts in every off season, again, without my teammates. And the one player I did see, I've done Taekwondo, Aikido, Kung Fu, Krav Maga. And the only other time I saw another athlete that would do this martial arts, I was in Pittsburgh, and the guy I was doing Krav Maga with, shout out to Pootie, he said, "Hey, I gotta let you go. We got to stop. I got a young cat from University of Pittsburgh coming." I'm like, okay, I looked. It's like, oh man, it's a big linebacker. Well, it was Aaron Donald, right?
Oh.
He just finished 10 years in the NFL, won himself a Super Bowl, and then DeMarcus Ware, Tamba Ali, some of the best defensive ends in the NFL. They are mixed martial artists. They are masters of martial arts. Because if I can't get my hands on you, you win. If I do get my hands on you, I win. So I needed to train my hands. And then another one, just a quick third one, when I got back to the Broncos and was playing with Peyton, I was out of breath. He runs so many plays. We usually run 30 plays in a spring practice. We were running like 70. I had to relearn how to breathe. So what did I do? I said, hey, I know somebody who trains mixed martial arts guys who goes to UFC. I'm going to go ask him how to breathe. And thankfully, he taught me, breathe in for 5, swallow your breath, out for 8. And I was like, man, even, I just get to I have to get through my first breath or something. It's crazy. He's like, well, yeah, be excited when you break your first level of fatigue because now you're settling in. And that reminded me again of when it becomes difficult, your yoga begins, right? So I had to relearn how to breathe. I had to learn how to use my hands in a lethal manner. And I had to learn how to balance not only my body, but my mind with my body. And those 3 things made me incredibly, incredibly capable of accomplishing anything I wanted to do regarding football.
Awesome. That's awesome. I got one more question. You've played with a bunch of great quarterbacks. You played with Jay Cutler, kept him from getting hit. I gave him 1.5 sacks. Like, that's amazing. What did you learn from Peyton Manning, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play, keeping him safe? What did you learn from him?
The biggest thing I learned from Peyton Manning was that there is so much more work you can do as an individual to be great. He would practice fumbled snaps in between bench press reps. He'd do his bench press, and for those who've been in the weight room, you got one person spotting you, one person who typically had just gone, and then the person on the bench press. Well, when it was Peyton's turn to wait, he would practice fumbled snaps in the weight room. Wow. Him and I were the first to the practice field 10 minutes before practice. It always shocked me. What are you doing if Peyton Manning's on the field already? So he would show up to work ready to work out. I mean, this was a lesson in mastery. So many people think that doing what they're asked is doing their job. It's not. That's how you stay average. And just think about if you had your significant other only do the things that you ask them to do.
Yeah.
Relationship wouldn't last. We want our partners to do more than what we ask, right? Anticipate that I'll be hungry. Anticipate I'm having a bad day. Know what I need, right? But you won't do that work for your passion? Come on now. So the biggest thing I learned from Peyton Manning is that each of us, in whatever it is we're doing, if you think you're working hard, oh, you are not. You're choosing not to look at the work that you can do to be comfortable in the work you're willing to do. And so for me, I just blew through what I was willing to do to take it to the max. I'm willing to do anything. And it paid off and it was worth it, as it is every time.
That's awesome. Wow, that's awesome. Is there anything you want to say to the people at all?
Learn how to invest. The difference between cost and price is the difference between being wealthy and being broke. The price of an iPhone is $1,000. The cost of that iPhone is whatever it takes for you to live, and your insurance and your taxes and your food and your gas and that phone. Cost and price are two very different things. And lastly, learn how to get into real estate. Buy a duplex, not a house. Suffer for a few years to do whatever it is you want to do for the rest of your years.
Love it, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for making the time. An honor to share the time with you, brother. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, man.